Hey, man, it's Dukes and Bell on a Wednesday. It feels like a Tuesday because it was a long weekend, but it's Wednesday, man. It's hump day, and we're halfway there to another weekend. Guys, we will chop up a lot of Braves conversation today. Mike, I want to get into a little bit of why the Braves are not doing what they need to, even though it's not what we want to hear, and we'll talk about that as part of our show today. But we start with, and I said this at the end of the show yesterday, if you have questions, if you have things that you want to add, sometimes we don't get a chance to get to it on the show. Look, we love you guys, feeding back to us and giving us the interaction, but we have lists sometimes of comments. Right. So Day has a few of those comments for us in regards to the Braves, and kind of want to start there today on Behind the Curtain. That's what this is. Thanks for being here, accessing it however you're doing that, guys. Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. Appreciate you being on all of our social media channels. All right, Day, what's the deal, man? What are people saying in their comments to us about the Braves?
All right, so this was in regards to just how they're addressing, whether or not they're going to try to go out there and get another starting pitcher, or if they're just going to, work with what they got. And so this was kind of our moment that we had on Twitter. And so some of the comments, a lot of people, it's kind of split, I'd say. So I'll start with Courtney Caps. Courtney was like, then again, if you coach up your bullpen to be mentally ready to pitch when called in, you don't have to burn through multiple relievers every night. Teach the starters.
I'm sorry, Courtney. What the are you talking about? Back to you, did it.
All right.
We don't want to poop. See, I don't want to encourage feedback and then immediately take a crap on it. But what the is he? We're gonna mentally say, "Hey, bullpen, expect to go every fourth inning to ninth inning all season."
Well, here's
mentally prepared, Carl. What are you prepared to do?
He says, teach starters to shoot for 7 innings instead of 4 or 5. Call Mazzone. He knows how to do it. So I thought the innings portion of this, when it comes to the starters, I did think that was – because that is part of the problem. We've trained – these guys are trained mentally and physically now to 6.5. I don't have to do anything after that, right? So I thought that was an interesting comment, but just wanted to kind of get you guys' take on that one.
Mike, go ahead.
No. I mean, yeah, it sounds great. Now get ready. What the hell happened last year? They weren't ready? Guys, in baseball, it's become situational. We know that. And now pitchers don't go through the lineup 4 times anymore because they're all pussies and the sport has gone south. That's it. But as far as the Braves, you got to have a good bullpen. Now, 21, they had an amazing bullpen, and they could do some of those things. We got some good pitchers on the back end. I think Suarez being added is great. But I still think you're in the same boat. You cannot overtax the bullpen, Carl, by having them pitch from 5 to 9 all season. I mean, all right, for instance, let's just say for argument's sake, Bryce Elder is going to have to start some games. That's 4 1/3 at best. So that's just, so be prepared, guys. I'm sorry, no. Your starters, you need more starters. You need to invest in more starters, more inning eaters. So you don't do that to the bullpen because the bullpen can only do what it can do, and it can't pitch, Carl, 6 innings every game.
Leo, he mentions Leo Mazzone, who is arguably the greatest pitching coach in Braves history because he had the greatest rotation in the history of the Braves. Different game. And when you talk about starting pitching carrying you versus where this league is now, it's a little different. And so when he says Leo knows how to do it, I know how to do it too if I was throwing 4 Hall of Famers out there every 4th day. Okay, that's just no disrespect
to Leo, but Carl just nailed it. Bobby Cox had the best pitching staff in the bigs for like 15 years.
It's just where it is. So I hear our listener, but it's not about. I feel like it's not about the mental makeup or the mental readiness or preparedness. This is more about when you say you won't tax your bullpen. It's usage. Usage is the key, okay? So when you say that, and games play themselves out, you're talking about 162 now. Games play themselves out every night differently. And if you're talking about the usage of certain guys more than others, you're going to wear them out, regardless of what their mental capacity is. So it's still a physical game. But I hear where you're going, but that's really just not the answer here when you talk about getting the bullpen prepared mentally. All right, Day, what else we got?
Scott DH on Twitter as well. He said, until the Braves, and Mike, this is somewhat in line with you. Until the Braves get a real owner like they used to have with Ted Turner, they won't compete. Liberty Media is cheap.
Well, again, Liberty Media technically doesn't own the Braves. It is Braves Holdings, but the biggest shareholders are Liberty Media. So it's Maffey and his guys. So it's basically it's semantics, but it's still basically Liberty Media, and they answer to shareholders. And I'm a shareholder for the Braves. I got 2 or 3 shares of that stuff. But I mean, I want to see this team always in the mix. And why do we say every year, well, we hope this works or hope that works? Why don't you invest in more starting pitching? You've invested, as Carl pointed out yesterday, in a large chunk of a lineup that has not done its job the last few years because of injury. But the starting pitching remains a problem. And again, this year, in addition to hoping guys can stay clutch and stay healthy on the hitting and fielding side, you don't have enough starting pitching. And I think it's directed from management. Some just feel it's Alex's philosophy, period. He's just never going to invest in a $150 million man, with, as Carl says, and with Scott Boras's guys with a no trade clause. But I think they should.
Look, and nobody was complaining about ownership in 21. We won a World Series, right? Mm-hmm. Now, did luck play a little bit of role in that? Yes, but it plays a role in every team that wins a World Series. You're hoping that your star doesn't go down, your number one starting pitcher doesn't blow his arm out. All those things play. But at the end of the day, this is about how the general manager and the front office manage a roster and acquire talent. That's it. Like, I hear what you're saying about the ownership. Let's stop bitching about the ownership. Nobody was bitching in 21. Ownership is not the issue. If Mike is right about the limitations of the amount of money they're going to spend, then Alex, and this is where he has been really good, has to be smarter about spending that money on the players that come in and actually help the team. And the problem is, if you're saying, well, if it was an unlimited amount of money, and I don't know if this is where Scott is going, saying ownership, spend an unlimited amount of money, there's still no guarantees that you're going to win the World Series. So right. That amount of money, like the NFL, Scott, has to be spent the right way. That's what makes the NFL so good. The teams and the general managers that spend the money in the right way ultimately are the most competitive teams, and those are the teams that go to playoffs. I feel the same way about baseball, because even with the Dodgers spending $300 to $400 million on their payroll, everybody assumes they're going to win it. Great. They got to go do it. It's no guarantee. So even if the Braves were doing that, I just don't feel like that is the complete answer to say, all right, we got $500 million to go spend. Let's go get, the guys we need to go get.
You got a window. I disagree with Carl wholeheartedly. You got a window to go win a championship. And like 23, everyone talks about the bats went cold against Philly, which they did. But you also had to start Bryce Elder in game 3 because you only had 2.5 starting pitchers. Because Strider wasn't 100%. You didn't have enough pitching in 2020 when you had the Dodgers down 3-1. You could have gone to the World. You could have won the 2020 World Series, but you didn't have enough pitching because you didn't invest in it. And 23 with the greatest lineup, 1 through 9 hitting, you still didn't have enough pitching because philosophically or from management, they don't commit to starting pitching. And then the last few years, the bats have just broken down along with the pitching. But you had a window to win at least 1 or 2 World Series, and I think they blew it because they were cheap.
That's where we're at. What you got, Day-Day? Got another one?
All right, one more. I will give a shout out to Brandon Edwards on Facebook. He's watching live. He says, not making excuses for AA, but Terry McGurk is the problem. And with that being said, reply we got on Instagram. I hope the Braves fans are ready. It will be another 20 years before we win the World Series again. This is from Jason Keebler, if I believe I'm saying it right. If I'm not Jason, I'm sorry. In 5 years, the majority of the lineup won't be here. Acuna, Albies, Riley, all gone. Not one pitcher on this staff now will be here in 5 years. AA will say he has the money, but Braves president McGurk and Liberty Media will not allow him to spend, always depending on the farms.
Turnover is a part of baseball. That's just a part of it. He's absolutely right. To expect Acuna or Albies or any of these guys to be here in 5 years is ridiculous. But turnover is a part of it. I'll say this. The Terry McGurk conversation is really reminding me of the Rich McKay conversation. It's old. Terry McGurk is the reason. Rich McKay was the reason. So do the Braves need to make Chipper the president of baseball for us to all feel better? Like, I hear
what if a guy is the stopgap, Carl? What if a guy gets a bonus if the budget stays under a certain point? That's part of Liberty Media's game plan. They're happy to invest in the real estate and buy parking lots. Terry McGurk oversees that. I mean, every company's got the hatchet man. I think in the minds of Braves fans, he's that guy. Okay. He's been around the organization going back to Ted Turner.
Did they win? Have they won under Terry McGurk?
1 championship, and we've come up short with the reasons I just gave you in 4 of the last 5 years.
Have they won World Series with Terry McGurk? Have they been relevant with Terry
Right. But what are we
McGuirk?
doing now? Why are we doing things on the cheap now?
So that's my question. Like, yes, he's been here. You've won, but yet you're still pointing the finger at this one guy. And again, I don't know, guys. I have no idea. I'm going to tell you that is Mike's assumption that is how this goes down. I have no idea. The inner workings of the Braves, and if somebody knows, please let us know. Tell me what the inner workings of the Braves are and who is the guy that goes, hell no, we're not spending that, scratch that, that player's not coming. I don't know who that guy is. Everybody has a budget. I don't know what the Braves budget is, but when you're talking about their top 10 in payroll, and look, part of that is the escalators in the contract. It's not as if they went out and acquired a new $20 million player. Check that. They went and signed Kim. They didn't acquire a $20 or $25 million pitcher, but they went and got an everyday player. So I don't know, man. I just feel like that conversation with the whole McGuirk thing is like, it just reminds me of Rich McKay. And I'm like, I don't know what you're going to do because he's not going anywhere.
No, but people look at the constants in the equation. They wonder if that guy's got an input. Is that guy an impediment? Is he helping you or is he hurting you win? So as you said, I mean, he's listed as the CEO. He is the CEO and the president of Braves Holdings, the parent company of the Braves. His role is to maintain executive oversight of all aspects of the Braves franchise.
Okay.
That's his gig. So, I mean, like I said, I just, look, I do know this. I can tell you one thing I do know for certain about Terry McGuirk. He said, blank you to the city of Atlanta when they did win the World Series by zipping the buses downtown at 40 miles an hour. So there's one thing that I can sure, because he was in front laughing like it was the funniest freaking thing holding the World Series trophy. I know that for a fact because I watched it as it was zipping by.
I'll say this. We all did. I'll say this. Moving the team out of Atlanta hurt, right? A lot of people still hold that, and you're looking for somebody, look, regardless of how much they're winning and whatever, for those of you who understand this conversation, when we say there was a racial component, a lot of people believe, to moving the team from where they were in the city out to Cobb, and you want to hold somebody accountable for that, regardless of how much they're winning. Unfortunately for Terry McGuirk, he was kind of the guy because of the title that Mike just talked about, carrying all of this weight of who's making these decisions. So that is also part of this conversation. And look, whether you believe that to be true or not, financially, I hate to say it, they're killing it. And that's another reason why we get upset as to why are you not reinvesting the potential money that you're making? The battery is a hit, guys, regardless of what you think about what the TED was.
Right. And one thing, just to double down with what Carl says, look, they got upset because they saw the Hawks get big money to re-up, Phillips Arena to State Farm. They saw Arthur Blank basically get all the loot, everything he wanted to get new, Mercedes-Benz built. And they're like, hey, how about us? They basically gave the Heisman, the city council and the mayor, and the Braves got ticked off. And look, we all said, man, traffic's going to be insane. It's fantastic. The battery is so perfect that everybody around the country, from pro football teams to college teams, want to build one. They want their own and control that revenue. So, I mean, I understand why they did it. It was just a dead zone down there by Turner Field. It's a shame it never got to it's a shame they didn't have it down there at Turner Field, but there was no leadership politically to make that happen.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not defending any of these decisions. They were going to be made without us. Right. I live in Cobb. They passed this damn stadium addendum, guys, without our knowledge. Right. My taxes went up. So I'm not somebody that says, hey, I'm all for everything they've done. What I'm saying is, understand where the vitriol comes from. Understand why people want to point the finger at Terry McGuirk. I just say, I don't know if he's that guy that's doing all this or not. Or they go, Alex, your budget's $250 million. You cannot go over that. I don't care what the circumstances are. And Alex goes, okay, I'll try my best to build a World Series team. Right. But if you do that and you're limiting your general manager in what Mike considers to be our window, then we're not going to achieve the ultimate goal. And that is why I think we're all in that circle where we all go, all right, what is the ultimate goal?
Right. To me, the point was to strike while the iron was hot, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, when you're really I just think they didn't put enough pitching to go along with that amazing hitting. And now it's just injuries have caught up to us. I mean, you're not going to have the perfect team, to your point, Carl, the perfect season. But when you've got that opportunity, don't do it on the cheap.
We're going to talk more about this today. See, Day, you set us off. You see what happens? These tweets, these texts, they set us off. But look, guys, we appreciate you interacting, and this is what we want. We want to hear from you guys. You feel adamant and passionate about where this thing is. And I don't know if Mike and I have all the answers, but we're going to give you what we've got. Right. I just feel like we've had Alex Anthopoulos on probably more than any general manager in this city. And every time we've asked him about this budget thing, he says, look, I got great bosses and I am able to do what I need to do. Okay. All right. So at some point, we're going to find that out this year because we still need to add something, whether he's going to do it now or he's going to do it at the trade deadline. And if he does nothing, I think that answers your question about, okay, his hands are in fact tied, because in a year where you should be competing for something, you don't want to go out and make an additional move or two to make your team better. That's a problem.
And Day, just so I know, Gabe Burns has really been on it from the AJC. He said, look, the Braves said they were going to address starting pitching because they didn't pursue Chris Bassett. They're not interested in Lucas Giolito. So, I mean, who is going to be these fourth and fifth starters if, in fact, Hurston Waldrop's going to be out for 3 months and, we're going to lose Schwellenbach?
Well, in that same article, Mike, he also talks about the fact that they could rely on Bryce Elder and Joey Wentz, but then they have to add them to the opening day roster, or they could actually lose them.
Right, because you only bring them back up and forth so many times. The problem, Carl, with Bryce Elder, for every one good start, there's 2 where it's batting practice.
Yeah. You have 6 opportunities within a season to move a guy up and back. And after that, then, he has a chance to clear waivers and all that stuff that happens. Look, that's the other part about this. Outside of the money and adding to your payroll, the nuances of what we're talking about play a role in whether a guy gets a shot, how soon he gets a shot, how often you use him. Again, I don't want to get into the minutia, but there's a lot of bullshit in baseball that teams want to control players and have control before they reach that point where they can get a real contract and all of this arbitration stuff we talk about. So again, some of that plays into who's going to be on the opening day roster and who's not. All right, we're going to talk more about this today because obviously it's a hot button with you. We'll get into that. We'll talk more about our Falcons. Big win for UGA last night. Terrible loss for Kentucky as we look towards the NCAA tournament. And there is a free agent out there that might interest you. We'll get into that as well today, starting at 2, guys. Thanks for the input. Sometimes this is what we do on our pre-show, and today was a perfect day to do this because the Braves are about to start their spring games. Go ahead. All we want is to see every team in town kick ass and win and do everything they can to win. That's it. We don't have to make it personal about people or management. We just want to win. And I think the fans feel the same way. All right, man. Great stuff. We will talk to you guys at 2 today on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.